Hello, and welcome to this Doug webinar hosted by MS Dynamics World. My name is Brittany Burke, and this is Basic Navigation in D365 F&O. Before we begin, a little bit about me. I am a solutions architect at CAFTA Code, and I have a master's degree in accounting. I started my career in the accounting department, but during an implementation of AX 2012, I quickly found a passion for the tech side of ERP software and turned my career path towards ERP consulting. I hold 2 certifications from Microsoft and have my own blog, D365 with Brittany. So today during this webinar, we're going to talk about 4 topics. We're going to talk about your D365 environment, user options, personalization, and how to copy and paste. Let's learn a little more about your D365 environment, starting with the web address. The URL has useful information that may come in handy when communicating issues with your partner or support team. Let's take a deeper look at the URL for the All Purchase Orders screen. The first part of the URL will give us information about the environment. If you are a consultant like me, this first part is very important. Which organization's environment am I in? This section will also contain information related to the name of the environment, which will indicate if it is a production, UAT, test, development, or any other environments your organization may have deployed. Next, we can quickly identify what company, or in D365 terms, legal entity we are currently in. As we can see here, I am currently in the USMF legal entity within the Microsoft Demo Contoso dataset. And finally, what menu item am I in? While you cannot send someone a URL that will be linked to an exact record, like if we had opened one of these purchase orders, they will be able to get to the menu item where they can select the record that they need. This dark blue bar across the top of our environment is called the navigation bar. On our navigation bar, we have the Help and Support menu, which is identified by this question mark button. Within this menu, if we select About, we will be able to see more information about our environment. The installed product version and installed platform version details provides information that can help your partner or support team better assist you with questions or problems. The installed product version, or release, will also help you to identify if new features, functionality, or fixes have been deployed to your environment. So let's look at some user options for how we can customize a little bit more about our environment and maybe how it looks, feels, and how it is when we first log in. So let's go to our navigation bar and we're going to select the gear icon, which is going to be your settings. And then from there, we're going to select user options. Right away, we can see that we have some visual changes that we can make to make our environment more personal to us. So we can choose the color theme. So we're going to have this Microsoft blue by default, but maybe we want orange, green, purple, pink, teal. I'm going to go with a green. Let's do green today. You can see all of my elements that were once blue are now green. And we're going to change the size. We want it to be a little bit more zoomed out so we can fit more on the screen. So I'm going to select that grid. And you can see right away that things have kind of shrunk on my screen. I'm going to come into preferences here now, and we can set up what the startup values are here when we first open our environment. So when you first log into the environment, your company default is important. You want to make sure you're in a company that makes sense to you if you have access to more than one legal entity, but you also want to make sure you don't end up logging into DAT every day. If you've ever had this experience of logging into DAT and not changing your company because it's Monday morning and you haven't had your coffee yet, and you open up all customers and there's nothing there, there is a slight moment of panic that something bad has happened. Then you realize, no, I'm just in the wrong company. So if you don't want that to happen, you can come in here and change that. So I'm just going to go ahead and type USMF, or I could have selected it from my dropdown, but I already knew which one I wanted, so I'm going to change that there. You can also change what page loads by default when you log in. So right now it's set to default dashboard. That's going to have all your workspace icons that you have access to. But there's a few workspaces that you can select by default. If you use the employee self-service workspace, you might want to select that one, but you could always leave it to default dashboard if you want. You also have the option of, do you want forms to open in edit or view access by default, rather than letting the form tell you what it's going to open in. Some forms, like sales orders, you're opening up an existing sales order. If you've ever noticed, sometimes some screens like that, it'll open in where you can edit right away. Other times you have to actually hit edit before you can make any changes. So we can change how that's acting by selecting view or edit. So if I always want it to open in edit, I can select that and know that if I have access to edit that record, that it'll open up in edit view. I can also change my language here. If there's a language that's a little easier for you, or one you just want it to work in, you can change your language here. Same thing with your date and time and number format. If there's a specific format that works for you, maybe Spanish, I know their dates, they put their day before their month, so you might want to change that if that's what you're used to seeing. You can set your time zone. I'm in the Eastern time zone, so I'm going to leave that set. But if I want to know what times things were done in the system, when I'm looking at those created and modified times or timestamps on batch jobs, I want to make sure it's in the time zone I am, so I kind of know how long ago it was. And you can set your country and region. So I have mine set to USA. So if we come to this last one, this workflow option, we have some options here for how we're getting notified for workflow. So do we want to get a notification in our email that there's a workflow assigned to us? So we can toggle that yes or no. And we can also identify if we want that in the Action Center, which is going to be our bell icon up here. So I would want both, just in case if I'm in the system, I get it right away. Otherwise, I can get it in an email on my phone or on my desktop. You also have options. Do you want one notification per line, or do you want it to be grouped? I'm going to say grouped because I don't want 25 emails every day. If you're going on vacation and you're someone that has an approval role, you may want to delegate that access, because I doubt you really want to, approve workflows while you're supposed to be sitting on the beach and relaxing. So you can set up delegations here by different scopes. So let's go ahead and add one and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can say, which workflow you want it for. I don't think I am assigned some workflow. So maybe there's you have to approve the aggregated budget. So we're going to select that one and we're going to delegate it to, Sammy. Sammy needs to be able to do it. So we want to select that. And we can put a date and time here that we want to change it to as well. So that if we know we're leaving, let's say we're going to leave on Monday, and we're not coming back until the end of August because we're going to take a nice long vacation, we can come in and change that date to here. So for that duration, we're going to change that that workflow to go to Sammy instead of us, so we can relax on the beach. So we can save all of this, and then our personalizations are saved. Let's talk about how to personalize our environment. D365 F&O provides flexibility in form design to allow users to insert, rearrange, or even hide columns. So let's go ahead and personalize this form and see what our options are. Keep in mind, if I personalize in this environment and go into another environment, I'm going to have to recreate that personalization. So let's look and see on this Open Customer Invoices form if there's anything that we're missing or that doesn't make sense to have here. So as I scroll through, I can see right away, interest, I don't need to know if there's any interest on these invoices. So I'm going to right click on interest and select hide this column. That allows me to hide it from my view, but I could always add it back if I needed to. I do see that we're missing any information about cash discounts, so let's go ahead and add those. So we're going to select our grid options button, which is going to be these three vertical dots. So we're going to select that and then select insert columns. From here, a new form is going to open up where we can add different fields that are relevant. Right away, I see two fields related to cash discount. So let's select the ones that say cash discount. We have a lot of information in here that we can add. That's a lot more than I might need, but there might be something that's relevant for everyone. I can see here that that table name changed. So there is some information we can pull in that's not related necessarily to the invoice, but to the customer that the invoice is for. Maybe we can see their account number, their credit limit. That might be really important as we're looking at these invoices. But for now, let's just add 2 fields. We can always add more later if we want to. I'm going to select update because I already selected those 2 fields. And all of our inserted rows are automatically going to come in on the right side of our screen. But we can always rearrange to where we need them. I want to group my dates. I want to put them all together. So I'm going to take this cash discount date field and I'm going to drag it across next to my due date. And now I realize as I do that, if I'm trying to look at the amounts, I can't see my invoice number anymore. So what are our options? Well, we can right click on our invoice and do freeze column. Just like you would in Excel, you can freeze the column so that it stays right there nice and safe on the left side of our screen as we scroll, and we can see it no matter where we are in the grid. I want to know how many invoices we have that are unpaid and how much cash discounts that are out there and available. I don't want to sit here with a calculator and total up all of these numbers. So I have the option to insert it right into the grid. So I can come into either of these fields, and we'll do it for both, and right click and do view column totals. By default, all of our number fields, which are the only fields you can actually add totals to, is going to be default to none. We have a couple options. We can do the average, maximum, minimum, or sum. Let's go ahead and do sum. And we're going to do the same here for our cash discount. So we have our sum on both our cash discount and our amount not settled, or the amount that's still outstanding. We also get this total over here under our invoice, which we have frozen on our screen, of how many rows that we have available to us. We have a few more options of how to personalize this screen that might make sense to each person that's doing it. I might want to group this by customer account because I see that we have multiple invoices that are open for each customer. So I can come into customer account and do right click and do group by this column. That's going to update my view here, and you can see that it's grouped by customer account. If I wanted to collapse them and just so I could have one open, I can just select and close it. If we scroll back over to the right, you're going to see here that we actually got subtotals now for each of our customer accounts. So at the very top, because the grouping is going to be at the top, you're going to see the amount not settled and the cash discount for that grouping. We still get to keep our totals at the bottom, but we now have subtotals for each customer. If you're anything like me, you're probably bouncing around from screen to screen all day. You may not want to have to go through all of those steps every day, multiple times a day. So what we can do is save our view. Where it says standard view here, we're going to select this down arrow and select save as. Here we can name our view whatever you want. You can leave it as my view or give it a personalized name. I'm going to say grouped by customer. And we spelled that wrong, so we're going to fix it. I can add a description of what I did for this view, or I can leave it blank. It's totally up to me. I can pin this as my default view, or I can keep the standard view and just be able to select this one. I'm going to go ahead and pin it as my default view because this is what I want to see every time I come in. We also have the options of how we want to assign the access to ourselves as a default view, or what legal entities we want to use this view in. I'm going to leave it set to all because this seems pretty relevant to all of my legal entities. But there may be instances where you only want to add it to a few. We're going to select all though, and then we're going to hit save. It's going to ask us if we're sure we want to make this for the default view for all of our legal entities. And remember, this is only affecting your view, so your neighbor in the cubicle next to you or your remote coworker is not going to see your view. So we're going to go ahead and hit yes, and our view is now saved. So if we may need to navigate somewhere else, let's go look at what sales orders maybe have not been invoiced. So we're going to navigate to a different screen because we're doing different things in our job. We're going to look at all of our sales orders, and then we realize we need to go back to invoices. So we're going to jump back into that screen, and we'll be able to see that our view was saved. And we have everything right where we left it in this view. Now, if we apply filters, we can also save the filters in there. So if you only want to see certain customer accounts or specific date ranges, you can add filters on the dates as well. You also have this advanced filtering where you can add multiple filters and see all the filters that are applied to your screen all in one spot rather than having to look at each column to see what filters are applied. If I know I'm going to be coming into this Open Customer Invoices screen a lot, I have the option to, instead of having to navigate to it each time, I can put it under my favorites. And to do that, you just come in your main navigation and click the star to fill the star in. And then now we'll see it here under our favorites. So anytime I need to come to my Open Customer Invoices, I can get there very quickly. Within here, we can also export if you need to. If we want to select all records, we don't have to do anything else other than right-click and do Export All Rows. It'll give us options to download, to export it to Excel, or if your organization has OneDrive or SharePoint set up and connected to your environment, you'll be able to save it to there as well. If I only want to select a few records, I can mark them and then right-click and do Export Marked Rows. We might not want to export everything, just a small subset of data, so you can do that as well. Let's talk about copy and paste functionality in D365. When we need to enter data, we can use the standard copy and paste functionality that Microsoft has across all of its products. We can use it in D365. So for this, we're going to pretend our customer, Otter Wholesale, sent us an email with a nice Excel table with the items and quantity that they needed to order. Rather than typing it into an email, they decided to send it to us in Excel. So we're going to go ahead and create a sales order here. And I had their customer account already pulled up. So we look at the sales order lines for our sales order. We can either type in all these items, there's really not that many, or we can copy and paste it. So I have two options when I copy and paste here. We can see here that the item number is not next to the quantity like it is in our table. So I can paste my item number and then paste my quantity separately. Or what I can do is come in and move my columns like we've already discussed you can do. So we're going to find our quantity column here, and we're just going to drag it over and put it right next to our item number, so we only have to paste once. So we're going to come in and select our values here in the nice table that Otter Wholesale sent us. And we're going to do Control C. So Control C on your keyboard or right click and copy. And then we're going to just click into our first item number cell. So the first cell you want to paste values in. So if you have multiple columns and multiple rows, you want it to be the top right cell that you're going to paste into, the same as you would with Excel. So we can either come in and right click and paste, or I can do Control V to paste it directly. We're going to get a prompt of, do you want to save your changes? Yes, we want to save them. If you said, oh no, I copied the wrong data, you could always hit discard. You can see this little blue circle as it goes down. That's as it's inserting and saving each record. So it's kind of in there temporarily when you paste it, and then it goes in and loads the data. We can see it loaded our product name too and did all of the automatic fills that you would normally have if you came in and pasted your number in or typed your number in directly. So maybe as part of their email, they said, hey, can you let us know the unit price and net amount for each of these items, because we know prices have changed. We would just want to be expecting, know how much to expect for the invoice. We could go and create a pro forma invoice, or export this whole grid, but that's way more information that they need. So we can quickly come in here and let's put our net amount next to our unit price so that we can export, or not export, but copy and paste all of our values out at once. So I'm going to select the first cell that I want to copy out of the system, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key on my keyboard and select the cell next to it. So you see that they both have the blue box around them. I'm going to then scroll down to the bottom, and again, while holding my Shift key, select the last row. You can see the blue box goes around all of them now. With the blue box like that, we're going to do Control C on our keyboard, or right click and copy with our mouse, and I can come right back into my Excel and paste values, right click and paste, or Control V to paste the amounts into the grid. So we're just going to give them some more information here. We'll type in our unit, cost, and amount, and we can send this back to Otter Wholesale, and we didn't have to take any extra steps in D365 to generate anything pro forma to get them the information that they need. So the D365 functionality with copy and paste can be in or out of the system. Keep in mind if you're trying to paste large volumes of data, I've seen where if you try to paste more than a couple hundred, couple thousand rows, it's going to slow down. So it is going to take some time to save each record, but for short things like this, copy and paste is going to be your best option to get your data in quickly and minimize the amount of data entry that you actually have to do. Thank you for watching my Doug webinar, Basic Navigation in D365 F&O. I hope you learned a few new tricks to improve your experience with D365. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching.